Lifestyle Trader Academy. And in the last video, we talked about mastering your financial potential. In this video, I want to even bring it a little bit more home. I want to talk a little bit about what trading lifestyle is really all about, okay? So for about the next 15 to 20 minutes, we're just going to take a deep dive in to some of the, some of the lifestyle things that you're going to see in trading. So with that, I don't want you to have a false perception of what trading is really all about. Now you can see behind me in my trade room, I basically have a bedroom that I trade out of in my house. I've turned into my office. It's not that office window looking out over the city with just me in an apartment and a desk and a trading computer. It's not the high-end cars that I'm sitting in the front seat with my cell phone that you might see somebody on Instagram texting out, oh, I just made $1,500 today, or I made $2,500 today. Okay, those are false perceptions. So let's dig into the reality of what a trading lifestyle is all about. Let's start with the obvious. The reason that most people get curious in the first place is the financial potential that you can achieve through trading. Well, all of you know the traditional advice: work hard, save money, put it into savings, and guess what? It'll grow. But look at the economy today. All right, the climate. This creates a problem. Now on this slide that I'm showing here, you can see traditional savings basically climbs at a slow linear growth. Okay, it's kind of like just barely moving along, less than 1%. Okay, but with the trading potential, there's exponential growth, there's leverage, and you're actively managing your portfolio. Okay, so there's great upside potential for growth there. So I want to talk about beyond the average here. Traditional savings accounts barely keep up with the cost of living. Barely. In fact, they are not even outpacing inflation at all. It's just ridiculous, okay? We're not as satisfied with that 2 or 3%, and that's on the high end if you're in money markets, okay? A year. We're not satisfied with that. What you're going to learn in trading is the skills to potentially generate that in a month, sometimes in a week, sometimes in 2 weeks, a quarter, depending on your risk appetite, okay? So a lot of times we'll use trading as an inflation hedge. Now, what do I mean by that? That's simple. This ties directly into inflation. If your money is still sitting or sitting still, it is technically losing value every day. In the last video, I showed you how the price of goods are going up, but wages are staying stagnant and just barely inclining, okay? So active management allows us to preserve your purchasing power against rising costs. So you'll hear me talk about actively managing your 401k, actively managing different aspects of your assets that you have out there. And the reason for that is you want continual growth so that you can keep your cost of or your purchasing power equal to what the economy is doing or outpace. Okay, we don't want to be in a underpace situation. All right, so how do we achieve this without starting with millions of dollars? Because you know that people have to have money to make money. You've heard that saying, okay? And most traders that get started do not have that money. So leveraging power is something that is very unique to trading. All right, you've heard the word leverage if you've been out there and started dabbling with trading a little bit. And that's what we do here. Now let me talk a little bit about leverage. This is unique to trading. Through leverage, we can control larger positions in the market with smaller amounts of capital. It's just the way the system is set up. It's a double-edged sword that requires a lot of respect. Now, I just don't want to throw this out there and say, oh, get into trading and you're going to make a lot of money real quick. You don't need a lot of money. No, you don't need a lot of money to get started, but you got to respect the position sizes, the risk potential, and everything that goes on with trading. All right. But it allows people, this leverage allows people to scale their growth significantly faster than traditional real estate or businesses sometimes. Okay. You've heard it that people made a couple of $1 million in 3 to 5 years in trading. And that is true, but only about 5% or even less than that, 5% even achieve that kind of trading potential. All right. So we need to really respect trading as we move forward. So from this moment forward, I want you to put respect in the back of your head for the markets. Okay. Also, one thing that trading allows us to do is have income diversity. Finally, think about security. If you rely on a single paycheck, and something happens to where that job goes away, well, now you're back to square one. You don't have any income and you're in a financial mess, especially if you have a lot of responsibilities, if you have a family, if you have children, if you have real estate, if you have a lot of debt. These are things that'll get you in trouble. Okay, trading allows you to create a second income stream. And that's why I want to take these first few lessons and just talk about financial literacy. I want to talk about what trading is, the psychology of trading, before we really jump into how to trade, how to get involved, okay? Because it's very important that you know the level, you come into a level ground playing floor and understanding what you're getting into. It's like going to a casino. If you go to a casino and you've never been one, you're probably going to lose your money the first time you walk in there. And that's the reality in trading. So, trading allows us to create a secondary income stream. It can be a side hustle, and it is also scalable. Scalable, I mean, you can grow your money and you can use that leverage in your favor if you learn how to do it. And we're going to teach you that here at the NMKL Trading Academy. All right. It's not just getting rich. It's about financial redundancy and safety. Now, in this course, you're going to learn that I basically teach two different models, okay? One, you're going to come into trading and you're going to learn how to build an income model. That's the first one, and that's going to become the engine to build a wealth vault that I'll share with you later on. And inside that wealth vault, you're going to learn how to buy stocks. You're going to learn how to actively manage different assets that you have in your life, okay? For me, I have a 40 or a TSP. Yeah, I'll tout it, but whatever. The point with the TSP or 401k is it's a savings that you've been able to take advantage of through the company that you work for. Okay, I've had a job most of my life, just beyond broke. Okay, a job, but I'm transitioning from that into an investor's lifestyle. And so that's why I actively manage my 401k. You can do that. All right. If you got a substantial one out there, and I'm going to teach you how to do that. And it's real simple. I'm simply, when I retire from the organization that I currently work for, I'm going to roll it into a trading account that is covered under an IRA. And I'm going to actively trade it. That's called active management. But before I do that, I want to have developed the skill to be that professional trader, which I have. I just am sharing with you the reality of what you can do out there. I'm trying to talk from a layman's point of view, okay? So these are just some of the things that can happen in trading. All right. The laptop lifestyle is something that you might have heard about, especially if you're younger. Once you've established the financial foundation, you can learn that in the first video. Remember, I teach you 3 things there. 1, don't spend more than you earn. Number 2, make sure you have a budgeting system. 50-30-20 is what I recommended over in that video. And thirdly, make sure you have that that safety net, that what do we call that? That emergency fund. You need to have that in order to have a solid foundation to start out. Pay off your debt. I talked about that in the first video. Because when you're paying interest, you're simply taking money that you could be putting into your wealth vault and paying to the bank. So that's what we want to get away from. So once you've established that financial foundation, the conversation is now going to shift to lifestyle. All right. What does this money actually buy you? We need to understand that. The answer is it's not more things. The answer is it's freedom. Okay. Location independence. All right. Is one of those freedom things. This is the hallmark of a modern trader. You're not tethered to a cubicle at work. Okay. As long as you have Wi-Fi, your office and coffee could be in a shop in Tokyo. Now that's true. You could be at a resort in Tahiti or on some remote island like that. As long as you have internet through Wi-Fi and you have a computer, you're good to go. But getting there and having the money to go to Tahiti is the lifestyle that we want to achieve. But it again, let's go back to what it really is. It's freedom. Okay, the world becomes your workplace. You don't have to pay overhead. And that's why I love this. It's one of the best businesses out there you could create for yourself, a business out of it, because there's not much overhead. It's very little. You don't have to get into all these risk things that go into having a traditional business. All right, so I talked about the location independence. The second thing of being able to trade is you have total autonomy. All right. For many, this is the biggest selling point. You don't have a boss that you have to deal with, We want to fire our boss. You've heard that if you've went to some of these multi-level marketing hype things. You could fire your boss through this business. Well, you can, okay? You can do that here too. You can be your own boss. There are no managers breathing down your neck. You don't have to deal with HR, figuring out how much vacation you can and can't take. There's no HR meetings, no office politics. How many of you don't like the politics in the office? Okay, you have total control over your actions. It's that simple. If you succeed, that's all on you. If you fail, then okay, but failure is not an option as far as I'm concerned. But what this gives you is the ultimate freedom when you have location independence and when you have total autonomy. Here's another thing that's beautiful about trading, okay? You have a flexible schedule. And unlike traditional business, where you have to be there from a certain time to a certain time, 9 to 5, 8 to 4, 5 to 2:30, you start to see how that plays in. Unlike a traditional business, the markets are vast. The crypto market runs 24/7. The Forex market runs 24/5, 24 hours, 5 days a week. And so does futures and options, okay? This means you can fit trading around your life. You can't any longer use the excuse, well, I'm working or I'm in school. You can fit it around your life. All you need is a couple hours to go and make an assessment and make a decision, okay? It's really, and we'll talk more about that when we get into the actual course deeper. Okay, but this means you can fit trading around your life rather than fitting your life around work. See, most of the times we fit our life around work. And, that's a big misnomer. You can trade when it suits your rhythm. All right. That's what we like about trading. That's what makes it sellable. That's what gets our appetite going. Sorry there. Okay. So just keep that in mind. All right. Now, here's something that I want to talk about is the intellectual challenge that comes along with trading and mastery. Okay. Now, I don't want to paint the picture that this is going to be easy. It's not. If the lifestyle is the reward, This slide that I'm sharing with you, this chess piece, these chess pieces, this chessboard, this represents the work that you're going to have to put into it. Okay, there's a lot of thought that goes into trading. Now let me explain. Trading offers an incredible intellectual challenge. It's a strategic puzzle. And what do I mean by that? Well, trading is essentially 3D chess. You're constantly looking to solve complex interactions in economics. Okay, you learn a lot about economics through trading. It basically, what is the central bank doing? What are they going to do? When are they going to raise interest rates? Are they going to lower it? We don't know. We're trying to figure that out based on what's going on in the economy. Psychology. Is the market greedy or is it risky? We have to take those things and we have to think through those types of things. So there's psychology involved and even math. You need to know what the probability and the risk is, okay? And you do that, it engages every part of your brain. So if you're like me, starting to get into my senior years, well, guess what? This is a good medicine. It keeps your brain engaged in something, all right? If you're young, don't think it's just going to be push this button or push that button. Now, I do talk about buy on blue, sell on red. Yes, it is so simple, so easy, so powerful once you understand it. And all you have to do is buy on blue and sell on red. Okay, I'm not trying to promote something that's going to be easy when you first start. But what I'm getting at in my statement is once you learn the system, it is wash, rinse, and repeat. And I'll talk about boredom here in a little bit. But the good thing about trading is you will never be bored. It's continuous learning. The market is a living organism and it changes every day. Strategies that worked last year may not work later this year or may not work now. The market changes, okay? It changes every day. Strategies also need to be adjusted. This forces you into a state of continuous learning, continuous analysis, okay? You need to stay sharp. So that's why I want to have this talk with you before we even start into trading. I don't want to sell you a system and then say, oh, Nate, you said it was going to be so easy, but now I'm losing all these trades. Well, that requires a lot of discipline. It requires going back and reviewing these courses, listen to what I'm saying about trading. Trading allows you to have true meritocracy. Okay, and I love this point the most. The market is the only place left that is truly blind to who you are. They do not know who's pushing that buy and that sell button. There is no bias here, okay? The chart doesn't care about your degree. You can have a PhD, and I'm probably going to offend somebody with this, but in this market, PhD just means you got a public high school diploma. It's that simple. They don't care who's pushing that button. They don't care about your gender, okay, or who your parents are. You kind of see where I'm going with this. This makes a level playing field if you come into this business for everybody and anybody that gets involved, all right? Success is based strictly on skill and discipline. Those are the two things that I'm going to teach you at NMKL Trader Academy. Skill and discipline. If you are good, the market's going to pay you. It is the ultimate fair playing field that's out there. The meritocracy of this is something phenomenal. It doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter race, creed, religion. It is totally unbiased. Now, when I say unbiased, I'm talking about who's pushing that button. Now, it does become biased sometimes to people with bigger pockets, okay, like financial institutions, because they can drive the market. But we as individual traders, I'm not going to use the word retail, but as individual traders, We want to trade like institutional traders. So what we have to do is learn to follow them. And that's what we're going to also spend a lot of time emphasizing here at NMKO Trader Academy as well. All right. So let's talk about the psychological self-discovery that comes along with trading. Here is the part that nobody ever talks about before you get in. We talked about power, we talked about money, we talked about freedom, the brain power, the continuous learning that's going on with it. But here's the biggest hurdle. It's the psychological self-discovery that you're going to find through this course. Now, let me take a minute here. And there's going to be times when you place a trade and it's going against you. You lose it or you get out of it. And then the market starts going in the direction you thought it would after it hit your stop loss or something like that. And then you say, well, I lost a lot of money. I'm going to double up. You start revenge trading. Okay, everybody's going to go through this. Nobody's going to be watching you. So that's why we call it self-discovery. And you have to learn to get rid of those habits because those are the biggest killers in trading. You start playing like it's a casino. All right, I didn't win on that slot machine over there, so I'm going to go over here and play this one, and maybe I'll win over there. Hey, it doesn't matter whether you have a PhD, whether you have deep pockets or what. It's very simple. Or even if you don't have deep pockets, we all get hit up by this. So that's why I talk about psychological self-discovery here. To succeed here, you have to master yourself. You have to get yourself under control. You have to learn to control your emotions. So we will be talking a lot about emotional discipline. You will feel fear when you're losing. And I have a whole video that I'm going to do on fear, the 95% and the 5% that are successful and the 95% that don't make money. I'm going to talk about that because the biggest driver of why those 95% never move over to the 5% success is because of fear. And I'm going to teach you courage through this course that will be that gap to get you over to the 5%. So you're going to feel fear when you're losing. You will feel greed when you're winning. I won that one. I'm going to go ahead and get in the next one. Maybe I can double what I just made. That's greed. We're going to teach you to trade to daily targets. We're going to teach you to stop trading when you hit a daily loss target. It's that simple. And the biggest thing I'm going to want to talk to you about and always hit home is we're not here to focus on making money. We're here to focus on how to follow rules and discipline ourselves. Because when we get into our risk management later, those are the two things, following rules and risk management, following rules and mastering risk management are what is going to mitigate our fear, our greed when we're winning and losing, okay? Those are the emotional controllers. So you learn to regulate your emotions in a high pressure situation. You have to, okay? There's a thing that comes along with this psychology called forced growth. The market acts like a mirror. It basically is going to point back at you. If you're impatient, the market's going to take your money. If you're arrogant, the market will humble you. It forces you to confront your personal flaws and fix them to improve your performance. Okay? So that's why trading is such a great thing to get into because it helps you look inside yourself, self-discovery. You're going to build resilience through trading. Okay? Finally, it teaches you to take a loss. If you ain't losing in your trading, then you're not a true trader, okay? In school, we are taught that failure is bad. I remember you don't want to get an F and have to repeat the same grade. Okay, that was the biggest thing when I was a kid growing up and in grade school. You didn't want to have to repeat grades because that showed a history of failure. In trading, losses are just business expenses. That's all they are. It's part of the educational tuition fee Okay, it depends on how you look at it. But losing, if you blow an account, it's not the end of the world. All right, so you learn to take a hit, stay calm, chill out, analyze the data, and keep moving forward. You've missed questions on a test before. It's the same thing. That resilience translates to every other area of your life as well. And that's what I want you to keep in mind. Okay? So it helps you. Buy and sell orders are on the top. Emotional discipline, patience, resilience to loss, and self-awareness, if you're looking at this iceberg effect, are all the underlying factors that help you succeed in this business. Okay? So let's talk about, we talked about psychology, we talked about the lifestyle a little bit. Let's talk about the low barrier that you see out there to entry, to becoming, or to being able to trade. All right. So we have this incredible career path that we're talking about here. It is, at one time, it was only reserved for the elite, or so we were told. 20 years ago, maybe, but not today. Let me talk about the ease of access for trading for just a second. You can open a brokerage account digitally in minutes. The days of needing to call a broker on the floor at New York are over. Access has become quite available. It's instant. There's micro investing. You don't need to be rich to even start. With fractional shares and micro lots today in Forex and in futures, you can start with very small capital. Or there's these things called prop firms that you can trade for out there if you develop the skill. You can practice with $50 or $100 just to learn the mechanics. Well, let me just share it even a little bit better. You can get a monthly subscription over on TradingView, which we will be promoting TradingView through our academy. All right, just to give you a heads up. But you can go over there and you can get virtual accounts, or there's this thing called paper trading, where you go in, they give you this virtual account, fake money. It's a demo account. You've heard it put different ways, but basically you're trading, receiving data from the market and using a simulated account to trade the markets with. All right, so it's a beautiful thing to develop skill with, and I love it. So that's why you can practice. You can start your own account and practice with $50 or even $100 in some brokerages. You have to check each one out. I don't, here at NMKL Trading Academy, we're not going to necessarily promote certain brokers, but we will give you a list of the top 10 out there for Forex. And one thing I also want to talk to you about is make sure that they're regulated within the region of the world that you're trading in. All right. Also, that this thing that comes with trading is democratized knowledge. Okay. And this is the biggest change. Education. It used to be locked behind expensive degrees. Okay. Now we have a massive, and this can become a problem too, a massive availability of free education. Now, you can go out there on YouTube. There's courses like this one that we're going to have. And most importantly, the simulator that I talked about over on TradingView, the paper trading account, okay? You can trade with fake money in real market conditions to prove that you can do it before you risk any of your own personal money. That's what is beautiful about this. So it's easy to get into after what I just shared with you. But let's talk about the reality. Before we finish up this video today, I have to be the one to burst your bubble. We just talked about how easy it is to start in the previous slide, but just because the entry into the to the career or into learning how to trade is easy, this brings us to our final point, the reality gap. And this is where I wanted to have a conversation with you. The social media illusion is out there. If you look at Instagram, if you've been looking on Facebook, Facebook's getting a little bit better, but you see an after picture a lot of times. You'll see a before and after, or you'll just see an after picture. You see the cars, the race cars, the Ferrari, the Lamborghini, those things. You see the watches. You see the great travel that some people are putting up out there. But what you don't see is the during. You also don't see transparency. So let me kind of just get to the meat here. You don't see the 5 a.m. alarms going off, or the frustration of a losing streak, or weekends that you might spend back testing. So there is this thing called a paradox of boredom. Here's the truth. The truth about trading, okay? Good trading is actually boring. And you're going to ask, well, Nate, why is it boring? I'm making money. If you're going to a casino, you got the adrenaline flowing. But what trading is the same boring, disciplined routine every single day. To become rich or to become wealthy in trading, you simply have to learn a strategy that works and stick to that strategy, stick to a few markets, wash, rinse, repeat, day after day. Keep the same set of rules, the same set of discipline for your own personal life, and that becomes mundane. But let's look at it in another career sense. Let's go into the medical field. Doctors that live in the big, huge mansions, have the huge paychecks, they're not your general practitioner doctors. They don't just go out and get their MD and become a family doctor. In a sense, and if you're a doctor, please don't take this wrong, you become a jack of all trades. You're a holistic doctor, okay, master of none. But if you become a specialist, and that's what we're going to do here at NMKL Trader, is learn to specialize in certain markets. We're all going to have a different trading style, but we are going to find our niche markets that we like to trade. And when you do that, and you focus, just like a physician, a doctor that's a specialist, where he might line up 6 to 8 heart surgeries in one day, that's where the money begins to come in. Okay? When you're trading, when you trade the same market over and over and over again, you learn to read that market. You become to know that market. So when it starts to change, you notice that right away, and you can make those quick adjustments. Okay, so that's why I'm saying it can get boring. It's about waiting hours sometimes for specific setups to happen. It's a grind. But that's part of the game. Now, let's talk about the time horizon. Many people treat trading like the lottery, all right? They give it 3 months, they lose a little bit of money, or sometimes a lot of money, and then they quit. You need to treat this like a university degree, okay? If you're going to come into NMKL Trader Academy and learn, you need to treat it as if you were going for your bachelor's or as if you were going for a PhD. Because the potential here is to make a lot of money, but you have to do it systematically. And here at NMKL Trader Academy, we're going to teach you, personal finance. I did that in the first video when I talked about mastering your financial situation. We're going to talk about the psychology of a trader. We're going to go over what it takes to be a good trader. I'm doing that in this video right here. You're going to have to give, yourself some respect for learning this. Yeah, you're going to have to give yourself some time. You're going to have to put in the work. Okay, you wouldn't expect to be a surgeon after 3 months of watching YouTube videos, would you? No. Give yourself 3 to 5 years to really look at any degree, any career field, and even this as a business. So, it will take some time to master your craft. And what we're going to teach you here at NMKL Trader Academy is that you only need 1% risk. You only need a 3-to-1 risk to reward rate, or I'm sorry, 3-to-1 reward to risk rate. And you only need to be profitable 30% of the time to make money. But what we're going to do is teach you how to go from 30% profitable to 50, to 60, to 70. And you're going to see that income increase. That profitability is going to go way up. And that's how we develop you into a good trader over the next 3 to 5 years in your journey. Okay? Now, the freedom I talked about earlier, I just want to kind of touch on that. The freedom that I talked about earlier, the freedom that I talked about earlier is simply going to be the prize to becoming a disciplined trader. And I'm talking about the location freedom. I'm talking about self-autonomy, being able to do what you want, when you want, and not worry about where the cost is going to come from. I'm talking about going on a 10-day cruise to Alaska, or a 2-week cruise to Hawaii, or maybe going to Asia and doing an Asian cruise for 2 or 3 weeks. You're going to be able to pay for those things and not worry about where that dime is going to come from, or that dollar. It's just that simple. It will pay off if you do this. But the discipline to do this boring work when nobody is watching, the price is the price that you pay for the prize. Okay? So you're going to have to put in the hard work. You're going to have to take the losses. You're going to have to pay the business expenses. You're going to have to pay the educational tuition, whatever it is. It's called losing. You're going to have to put in that work and give yourself, let's try this for a few years. Don't come in and treat it like a casino. All right. Now, I've talked about a lot of things in this particular video, but I wanted to give you the reality check. All right. It really does have a grind to it, and you have to get ready for it. All right. So where does this leave us? We've looked at the financial potential to build wealth and a lifestyle of freedom that comes with this. The money will follow, okay? We've discussed the intellectual challenge and the strategic puzzle and the deep psychological of self-discovery that is required to master your own mind. Okay, so trading can do a lot for you. It can give you a lot of self-worth, okay? But you've got to put in the hard work. And we've also talked about the gate being open. It's easy to get started. The barrier of entry is lower than it has ever been in history. Now's the time to get in and start doing this. But as I leave you today in this video, I want you to remember that last image we just looked at, the difference between expectation and reality. Trading is an open door, but it is not a free ride. It is not something that's just going to come natural to, well, some people will pick up things faster than others, but it's not just going to come and be there for you. It's not going to be like winning the lotto. It's a profession that demands respect. You need to treat it like it's a degree, okay? That's my recommendation. And the low barrier to entry can be deceptively simple. It invites everyone in, but only the disciplined survive. Okay, so again, we're not going to focus in these courses on making the money. We're going to focus on the discipline to follow rules and stay on target, to instrumentally institute risk management, okay, to mitigate the potential for loss, okay? We're going to do things that mitigate the fear. Remember I talked about fear and greed are the two biggest detriments to a trader. Well, we're going to learn to mitigate those through risk management and following rules. That's called self-discipline. And as we wash, rinse, and repeat this stuff, eventually we become emotionally detached. And that's when we begin to win. That's how you know. True autonomy and financial independence is absolutely worth it. And unless you grasp these principles, you're going to be in the same rut the rest of your life. Now, I've been on here long. I want to thank you very much for your time and your attention. I'm happy to take any questions. Send me an email at support@nmkltrader.com. Feel free to send me questions in Discord. I don't mind. I'll answer them. I get back to people. All right. This is Nate at NMKL Trader Academy. I hope you guys have enjoyed this lesson. Have a good night.